Greetings everyone, it's been a while since I've done a science video due to some technical difficulties, and I'm really sorry. But we're back and we're better than ever. This week is a review of things that we learned in an earlier learning packet, specifically looking at plant adaptations, but it's going to bring in some animal adaptations too. Before we jump in, let's take a look at the last science video comment challenge. The question was, who is responsible for inventing and patenting the first carbon filament light bulb? You know, Thomas Edison gets a lot of the credit for patenting the first electric light bulb, incandescent light bulb, but who's responsible for that carbon filament that went inside of it? And let's take a look at who answered. You guys slept on this one, but luckily, two people came in hot with some good answers at the last minute. So shout out to Ian, a first-time commenter for us, and to Eric, who came in with the correct answer, which is Lewis Latimer. And Ian also gave us a bonus answer, which is Joseph Nichols. And that's also correct. Joseph Nichols and Lewis Latimer together used the filament to patent their own electric lamp in 1881. So congratulations to those guys. Thank you so much, and thank you to everyone who commented. It's been really nice to be able to see that participation. All right, folks, let's take a look at adaptations. Adaptations. Look at all the science that we can do. Let's do some science with Mr. Mathews. Yeah, science. So, adaptations. What are they? Why are they? How are they? When are they? Where are they? We'll try to answer some of those questions right now. An adaptation is a change in behavior or in the physical structure of an organism, and it allows that organism to adjust to its environment. So to adapt and to adjust, those are two synonyms. They have similar meanings. To adapt to something means to adjust to something. So for instance, during this quarantine, we've all had to change our behavior to adapt or adjust to the new rules and guidelines that are helping us to stay safe and healthy while this wacky virus gets worked out. You may adapt your clothing to different weather patterns. And you may adapt your clothing just for certain occasions. All organisms have to adapt or adjust or change in order to survive. Today, we're talking about plant adaptations, and we're going to look at some animal adaptations too. Now, why on earth would plants need to adapt? Well, weather conditions, including climate and temperature, amounts of rainfall, exposure to wind, these are all different in different parts of the world and at different times of the year. And plants need to be able to adjust or to adapt in order to survive. So these are plants that are typically found in the desert. Now, many plants that live in the desert are called succulents. We often call them cactus or cacti, plural. They have a special adaptation that allows them to survive. Let's take a look. For one, they tend to not have very many leaves, if any at all. This is because water is usually released through the pores of the leaves. Since there's usually a shortage of water in desert climates, plants need to hold on to as much water as they can. So, having no or few leaves can help them hold on to that water. They also tend to have sharp, pokey leaves called spines, and this helps to keep certain animals away from them so that they don't get munched on or punctured. And this helps them to retain water too. The roots of desert plants tend to be thin and stay close to the surface of the ground, and that's because dry, rocky desert soil doesn't really hold on to water very well. It doesn't seep deep down in like it does in our forested or more grassy wetland type of soil that we have around here. Water doesn't soak into it as easily, and so it stays on the surface of the desert soil and eventually evaporates. So the roots of a desert plant are often closer to the surface of the soil so that they can soak up all that watery goodness. When we're talking adaptations, we're usually putting those adaptations into one of two categories: structural or behavioral. Now, a structural adaptation is a change or adjustment in the physical body of the organism itself. Body color, body covering, beak type, and claw are some types of adaptations. Sometimes these adaptations are about helping an organism to blend in, like tiger stripes or reptiles' green skin, or the shimmering scales of fish that reflect light and make them harder to spot by predators. But sometimes it's the opposite. For instance, birds are often brightly colored in order to stand out and look special to attract a mate. Plants that reproduce using seeds often have bright colored flowers with sweet smelling nectar to attract animals and insects for pollination. Some are related to the ability to find, catch, grab, and eat food, protect themselves from predators, or to find or build homes for themselves. These changes in the physical body or the physical structure of the organism are called structural adaptations. Now, a behavioral adaptation is a change in behavior. It's something an organism does in order to survive. For instance, some animals living in hot desert conditions adapt by hunting for food at night or in the early morning when it's cooler outside. Animals living in colder temperatures may gather extra food or even eat extra food to build up more body fat to survive the cold winter. And some animals will adapt by migrating or moving away to a warmer climate. Some animals also adapt by building homes in cool places to avoid getting hot, herding or huddling together for warmth and shelter, or behaving in certain ways to defend themselves from predators. Anything that an organism does to change its behavior in order to survive is called a behavioral adaptation. Adaptations are changes that help organisms to survive and meet their needs for food, water, shelter, and protection. Organisms can have structural adaptations, which are adaptations to their physical bodies, and organisms can also have behavioral adaptations, which are adaptations in what the organism does. Now, it's important to remember that adaptations don't develop overnight. Adaptations sometimes develop over many, many years, decades, or even centuries. The adaptations that we see in organisms are often the result of the fact that the organisms that did not have those adaptations were not able to survive. The ones that did survive passed on those traits to their offspring, and before you know it, that becomes the new normal for those organisms. For instance, let's say a species of fox is found to live in the woodlands of Virginia. And let's say that 10 of those foxes each find a mate and produce baby foxes. Of those 10 super cute fox couples, 6 of them build homes called dens by digging a hole out in the ground. This den not only helps to keep the newborn pups out of the weather elements, but it also provides a safe place for parents to bring back food for the pups and provides a safe hiding place away from possible predators. Because of that behavior, the pups of those 6 super cute fox couples all go on to live long, happy lives. And because they saw their parents build dens for their young, when they have pups, they may do the same thing. And on the cycle goes. But what about those other 4 super cute fox couples? Well, if they don't adapt their behavior in the same way, then their chances at survival go down, and there are fewer pups who end up surviving, if any at all. Over time, years, decades, maybe even centuries, foxes living in that habitat end up being the offspring of the foxes that adapted to their environment in this way. You may have noticed lately that the weather is getting more and more difficult to predict. This is the coolest spring and the coolest May that we've had here in Southeast Virginia in years. But more than the unusually cool temperatures is the difficulty in really predicting what the weather patterns are going to be. This is one of many direct results of climate change. We used to call climate change global warming back when I was a child, but that term isn't the most accurate way to describe what's happening. The changing of the Earth's climate patterns throws a lot of things out of whack, like temperature patterns, precipitation, wind and wind erosion, etc. This makes it so that animals that typically have all the adaptations they need are struggling to survive as their habitats change. When we talk about climate change, we aren't just talking about the rising sea levels or bad air pollution. This actually impacts all patterns of life on Earth. So do me a favor, huh? Do what you can to treat the Earth and the environment with as much kindness and care as you can. It's the only planet we've got, so we've got to take care of it. All right, for this week's comment challenge, I would like for you to give us one example of a structural adaptation and one example of a behavioral adaptation. And this can be for plants or animals. So give me one of each. If you have trouble with this, maybe just think of one of your favorite animals. Then maybe do a little bit of research. Look at the ways that their claws are shaped, the kinds of teeth that they have, maybe the kinds of prey that they like to eat. Think about what adaptations led to them being able to do this. Well, that does it for us this week. Have a great rest of the week, and I'll see you soon. Bye, 4th grade.
Look at all the science that we can do.